Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. The time is 4:02, and I will call to order our Wednesday, July 16th, 2025 meeting of the Capital Area Transportation Authority Board of Directors, and ask our secretary to please call.
Keith Garber, Kelly Blackwell, here, Bill Shane,
Here.
Chelsea Dollar, Jenna Draheim, here, Mark Brebner,
Here.
Eric Milo,
Here.
John Crush,
Here.
Edward Rogers,
Here.
Jack Schmidt,
Here.
Eric Dan, David Triplett,
Here.
and Stephen Vignon.
Thank you very much. Let's move on then to item number 2 on our agenda, which is public comments on agenda items. The time we set aside during each of our meetings to hear from members of the public on items that are on this afternoon's agenda. We ask that you please consider filling out a blue card to assist our secretary, and that you bring your comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a timer to assist you with that. I will call folks who have submitted blue cards in the order in which they've been received, and then ask if there is any other comment in the room. And actually, it looks like the only card I've received in advance is request you to speak at the end of the meeting. So let me just ask those present, is there anyone who wishes to offer public comment at this first opportunity on agenda items? All right, seeing none, then we will move forward to chair's comments. Just a couple of quick things from me this afternoon. First of all, is per our CATA policies regarding the appointment of officers. That process needs to begin this month with the appointment of a 3-member nominating committee. Derek has graciously agreed to chair that committee along with Jack and Kelly, and so I would ask for a motion to approve a nominating committee composed of Jack, Derek, and Kelly, but Derek chair. So moved by Phil. Is there a second? Second by Mark. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. My second quick item is just that we have had 3 of our colleagues, Chelsea, Steve, and Eric, who have requested excused absences from this afternoon's meeting. So I would ask if there was a motion to excuse them. Moved by Jack, seconded by Shanna. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries, and those absences are excused. We also have a very important recognition to do at the board meeting. We're expecting a special guest for that. So I think what I'm going to do is just defer that, if that's all right, momentarily until our guest arrives. You know, those getting back. And so my last item then is just a note that in front of you at your desks, you should have a copy of the minutes from the closed session that was held on May 21st. One of the items on our consent agenda this evening is the approval of those closed session minutes. However, I was asked by our legal counsel to remind folks to please leave those copies once you had a chance to review them on your desk so that they could be collected after. With that, that's all I have under my chair's report. So we will hand it over to Brad for his chief executive officer's report, with just a programming note for the board that if we're able to move forward with the recognition of Logo, we will do that as soon as we are able. We can meetings interrupting our incompetent staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am checking on our desk right now. First off, and dropping rumor, number 1 on my list, because we had a devastating loss last week. Early morning hours of July 10th, we were contacted Nick Faulkner, one-time driver, supervisor, passed away. It's come in a series of losses for us, the Transcat, and it's just been a tough time for those families, but also for Janet Transcat. His arrangements are, I believe, this Friday, Saturday, and I'll make sure you have received that. Definitely our hearts go out to them. Devastating. Okay. Next up, Chairman Triplett and I returned from Delaware County today, and with the commissioner's assistance, helping us, with some ballot language, more than the public, we actually see the final version, but, we did go through a couple of versions and Belleville Township on June 16th, matter of passing and continuing to work on the language and pass this in Monday specifically. The important part that I need to bring to your attention is that, the Belleville Township Board passed the measure set out unanimous. This is coming off of the polling that we did out there. 66% of the residents are interested in it. This is double, the devil's always in the details. We think we Delta, the lead Delta, thinks that they have the final ballot language and we'll be moving forward on that Monday. And we stand, as a potential contractor to Delta on public transit. I need to emphasize, this is not a Chatham village. This is not an A-Tran village. This is a public transit village, which very similar to what Meridian and Ingham County did with the commissioner's guidance, is set up a funding source to then bring in contractors to do services like what we're doing with about 3 A-Trans service. Even private contractors. So stay tuned next week. They will take a huge leap forward. They anticipate passing that. I will keep you updated. Drum roll, please, on June 20th. We have arrived at base. A 40-foot electric bus from Gilman. So our first full-size electric bus has arrived. Do not get too excited too quick. It's got to go through a number of tests. We want to make sure that people operating it, maintaining it, have become familiar with it. So there will be a launching ribbon cutting of our electric vehicle later, but we are underway. Thank you, Andrew, and DM. President, I'm working on that, and we've got a good sample on these. Wanted you to know that the Juneteenth parade and Pride Festival and parade the last month, we did not have a meeting last month. We were represented as both. Continue the tradition, but we are out supporting our community. I need to bait you with a little bit of news from the federal government. But that's our 3-year triennial review took place in June. In fact, June was a tough month. We still have to get through a number of things. We did have our final closeout, and what we found was, good day, Mr. Mayor. As Mr. Mayor walks in, I would like to have you hear this. We were told by the federal government that our 3-year review has resulted in 0 findings, which is rare, especially coming off of last 3-year review. We have 0 findings. So they made several compliments to Dustin and the planning staff, and they actually specifically identified some key areas where we actually were leading the nation in protocol. We put a lot of time into it. We have a consultant walk us through a mock review. Very proud of it. And I would just do 1 sentence and then I'll save it for next month. I'll make sure the staff feels appreciated for what they've done, but 0 findings, things. And finally, budget. We will be presenting tonight a discussion by policy on the operating and capital budget guidance policy. And we want to come up and walk you through some there to where we were on the retreat, what has changed since, especially as the other years, to make it very smooth for you to know the documents you have in front of you. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brad. Let me just ask quickly if there are any questions or comments on graduate flow. Okay. Being none, then we're going to hop back quickly to our special recognition for this evening, and note that we've been joined by Lansing Mayor Andy Shore to help us recognize the 14 years of dedicated service that Lobo has provided to the Capital Area Transportation Authority. Shannon, I noticed when you walked in talking to Lobo, talking about what all of us have done, which is congratulating her on this next exciting chapter, but also expressing sadness on behalf of the authority that will no longer have you working with us, and so we thought it was appropriate, given that all of us feel that way, that we take a few moments out of this meeting to recognize your service. I have just a brief remark that I would like to make, and ask Brad to say a few things, but I'm gonna hand the floor over to Mayor Shore for some recognition as well. But Lolo, over the time that you've worked at the authority, I felt very privileged to have the opportunity to work with you on a number of projects, and thinking about having to do this recognition this evening, the three sort of things that always come to mind that you are: creativity, partnership, and energy. And I was thinking in particular just about two recent examples. I picked recent ones because we could spend the whole meeting talking about 15 years of creative projects that you've done, and I know that is not what you want. So we're not going to do that. But I was thinking about just two very recent examples of where I think something might not have happened. I'm quite confident that one would happen if it weren't for you in this role of showing leadership. And I think that they're emblematic of service of this authority. They also happen to be very visually touching. The first is, I can't think of something that's more emblematic of innovation that you have helped provide when it comes to cross advertising commercially and with public involvement than the Barbie bus that drove around town. An amazing partnership with Impression 5. People looking at a bus as something attractive that they want to be engaged in, excited about, and really seeing everywhere from our riders all the way to, when that was launched, a number of regional leaders who were on a bus celebrating, and that kind of connection. That's the sort of thing that combines creativity, partnership, and energy in a way that I think is really needs to be my person to break the floor. And the second is I just want to share a brief story with the board about how helpful Lolo was at this year's Staff Day at the Capitol, which is one of the events that CATA helps sponsor. Through Lolo's efforts, we were able to wrap the bus that was parked outside for staff to be able to come in and learn about CATA and get shopping and do all the things that we normally do. But the wrap was a great promotional opportunity as well, and continues to drive around town. But the part of the story that I want to tell you all is thanks to working with Lolo and CATA staff. They had that visual piece, but also the scouts who were able to provide the bus that day asked for a show of hands. How many of you was the first time you've ever been on public transit? And all the two people, not counting the son, the answer to that question, that was the first time they had ever been on public transit, got interested, got excited. I'm not sure any of those folks ever would have had the experience of realizing public transit was for good. They did one for your work as well. So with just those two examples of material illustration on behalf of this work, I want to thank you for your service to this authority, and note that your mark on our work has been indelible, and you will be missed, and we look forward to continued opportunities in the future. And I'm going to let Brad say a few words, and then the mayor as well. I should say. I really do appreciate you indulging this presentation this evening. Lola's been very clear with everyone that she did not want a huge production, so we would try to find a balance here. Not a huge production, but also it would be really inappropriate for us to not recognize, as I said, the development of the office authority. Thanks for your patience. Brad.
That's pretty much what I was gonna say. I will stand. Although there will be more weeks. So, point of this is that I can't guess some of the things. I would like to make this reaching. I thought about this in the conversation today. Although it's original artist. It struck me that you can start with a lot of art. And as you get cheap races. And the analogy that struck me was transit, transit is not a fun thing to do sometimes. It doesn't get a lot of fun, artistic magic, and other things, cool things to do. When Lolo's an artist and made transit, made this lava and created, it made me better, it made me truly believe that, Michigan, it's going to be a hard the legacy of what has been created is really going to be on and we'll carry that on, but made a lot of hard, a lot of volunteering, area. And finding better for it. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you coming by and know every time I'm down in your office. Well, I need a bunch of cheesy days out there. Thank you for coming.
So, I did not know that it was one of our big things. Yankee says you made one that was there, didn't get me. I do want to see you, thank you. I Brazil, hiring. It's sad for us. We're working with incredible. My 8-year fair. Always seen you there. We've been to face of Chatham, whether it's at our neighborhood event, whether it's community event. I go to a lot of them. There are certain people that I see a lot of. Fortunately for you, she's leaving CATA service, but she's not leaving service. So you start off one of our own. So, but really, you have been helpful for those, not just for this course, but those who love riding trains, whether they're of need or not. Love highways. Howard. And, they have done for by not only by me, but now by any community person you by him. So, I know you all are pleased with you. So, I'm not going to read the previous possible, I'm not going to read this. You all right out. This is the cool thing that I get to do. Nobody else does. Now therefore, I, Andy Shore, Mayor of the City of Lansing, by the Department of Meeting, July 16, 2025, at the Old Province Day with the Evidence Championship. I'm going to Chatham family and thank you. But today is her day. You get this proclamation, and you get to tell everybody today is your day, so they have to celebrate you because Lansing this year.
Let me sit down below the proclamation. We also have a small token of appreciation for your service on behalf of the board and staff. And
Maybe a lot of it's going like, get us the most expensive icebreaker that you have. Congratulations.
Don't big thing. Don't rush it. But if you would like to offer any remarks, you're more than welcome.
Thank you so much.
Chairman, there's a rumor to take that proclamation over the road, over to the residents across the street here. Are afraid to have. They're gonna be pickles plants.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, kind of a hard transition from that, to get back to the agenda, but we will move forward with our, budget discussion. Brad, did you want to offer any introductory comments here before we,
I think in the interest of time, we've gotten used to Jim being the face of the bunch, and I would respectfully ask that Jim come to the podium and give a brief summary of how we got to this booklet from our retreat and available for questions. Again, this is under the board policy that this document is putting draft form to you and delivered to you by June 30th of the year, and then the subsequent meeting, which is this meeting, it would be a budget discussion.
Hey, good afternoon. My comments are gonna be very brief. This would take you back to the retreat that we had in February. And, kind of the path that we laid forward on what we were looking at for fiscal 26 and beyond. If you remember the chart that we had that showed that we were gonna, we had built up a pretty good cash reserve and we're gonna spend some of that in fiscal 2026. The document you got in front of you pretty much, mirrors that graph, that we had on the board. We talked about, you know, we've been able to add roughly $1 million a month to the cash reserves, through the last 18 months or so, and now we're gonna start going the other direction at about $1 million a month. And this budget reflects, you can see the expenditures are really, not much different from year to year, but the revenue is obviously very different. So, that's a brief summary, and that's kind of where we're at, and, happy to answer any specific questions about it, but, that's where we're at with the budget numbers at this point.
Questions from board members? Garrett?
Yes, Jim and or Brad, I mean, I see we're going to use reserves in an effort to get us through the hump on FY 26. How long can we do that? Chuck, right?
Yeah, pretty much FY 26. You know, and starting in FY 27, we're gonna have some decisions to make on that, as far as how we want to go forward.
I think what we've talked in past fiscal retreat was that this is gonna be 8 years, and that we're gonna be talking about the budget every month now. It's gonna continue to roll and be really clear about, not gonna wait to January to say, hey, here's how we right size this. We're looking at a financial shortfall. There is no significant increase in revenue from either of the states or the feds at this point. We will brief you continually that we need to.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if there's if there is any impact of the recent federal reconciliation bill on our projected revenue numbers from federal government or state government here, or do we know that yet?
Not that we've seen yet.
Mentioned 17 fewer positions, I'm assuming those are through attrition. And are there any different departments that will be impacted more than others? 17 fewer positions next year.
Yes, you're correct on it's mostly through attrition, and, I would say no, specific to departments at this point. It's, something we're evaluating going forward, but, is there any one specific department that we're looking at, reducing versus others? Not at this point, we haven't gotten it.
You may have seen in the Lansing State Journal after the thing, we chose that phrase that we've talked about here a couple of times in past. Not panicking. We don't know what lies ahead. We're in the same boat as our colleagues across the state, across the nation. It's very hard to bring service down and bring it back up again. We saw that we've done. So we plan to have, we've saved a lot of money. And what we're going to do now is start looking at austerity and increasing positions, and bringing costs down in some other areas without shocking the system. So we will bring those to you throughout the year and say, looking at potential savings. I don't see this as a ride now that's kind of Band-Aid on. We're going to have to cut administrative positions over time. Those would go before union positions because they put service on the street. That's a known factor. Have we identified those? No, but starting with not filling positions as we move forward is the first. We're going to be very careful.
Other questions? Garrett?
Brad and or Jim, what's the last fiscal year we operated just on $58 million?
I believe Jim tells me, Jim. I'm looking at Jim because I believe.
Okay, this is a slight guess, but I'm gonna say 2020.
2019.
That's,
Yeah.
that's the ballpark.
Other questions? Brad, do you want to talk a little bit about the process going forward at this point?
Yes, so, not only with the board, budget process, but we also have the public process, so we'll have a public hearing, next month. Correct, Jim?
Correct,
Public
yes.
hearings next month, there will be a legal notice that goes out, well in advance of the capital projects we do this every year. We take, public comment, there'll be a separate hearing in October, the August meeting. Our discussion, this is in draft form and to use food, after that hearing. Will be open this formal hearing, which is, always the community of the opportunity to vote. But this is a draft, this is always things.
I have one more question, sorry, and it may be too soon to have an answer to this, but should Delta Township decide to move forward with the millage, should voters approve that? Should they permit to work with CATA to provide permits? How does that shift this financial picture, both from a revenue and expense standpoint?
Yeah, that is a great question. I really don't know this. The money that would bring in and what we've identified as being able to cover the Route 3 and the spec training associated services on the Route 3. There's some other things that Delta will decide. So there is really Delta passing the knowledge, they have a pot of money, what would you like? And we have itemized those costs out. So we believe that we will be coming back and saying, hey, if successful, there's gonna be, we're gonna have to carry for a few months for about through probably all of them, we know that the ballot passes. And then I will bring back to you a plan as to how we move forward and when that revenue starts coming. So I'm not dodging your
Yeah.
question, but there will be, we'll have to carry some of the Route 3 going into next year. Yeah.
Just building on that, I think a fair assumption of it, not just that they're getting and the revenue system, as it offer, and maybe addition, they're making other things.
I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, we have the Route 3 in this budget. Okay, so the fact that we may be pulling revenue in for at an unknown time. I really am not anticipating large costs associated. I'm not gonna indicate to you that, MDOT is interested in funding more pilots, but MDOT's interested in exploring some other regional stuff, so there could be other revenue that would affect this, but I'm kind of holding the line on. I was asked frankly whether to take the Route 3 out and say, hey, we're not paying for this. I don't think it was. I think we put it in here and we budget for it to build this network that we're going after and then say, hey, we're successful. If it doesn't pass, we may pull this out at the end of the year. My intent is to work with the chairman and Chair Beatry and look at bridge agreement through the end of the year, Christmas break, holiday break.
Other questions? So we'll be hearing more about this. The only observation that I want to make is I think it's important to underline Brad's comment about all of us being in the same boat in terms of this being challenged with transit agencies across the country are facing recovering from the pandemic with the federal revenue picture as serving agencies across Michigan because of the state revenue picture. But the one thing to remember is that those boats are all not in a similar state of repair. And I think it's important to acknowledge both the voters of our service territory, who, as Mark will be the first to point out, every time pays the richest transit millage in the state of Michigan, for which we are now better prepared for this situation and have some room to maneuver as a result of that. And also concluding by recognizing the role our staff has played in that. Jim, Brad, Andrew, the rest of the team in anticipating this eventuality and being as prepared as humanly possible for it. So is the picture ahead rosy? Are the seas calm? Clearly not. But I would rather be in our boat than in pretty much any other transit agency in the state of Michigan, given the current financial picture that we face versus others. and that's to the credit of our voters and to our staff. So thank you.
You know, it's always been, it's always been a discussion about weight agency. You've got merging and not duplicating, and it's just so hard to get people to look at stuff regional, and even today, we're like, well, we need to do it. But I also this community, because we talk about our financial impact, the impact to the rules, the north and the west and the east is devastating. We're talking about 10% that's on services that are critical for seniors in the state in rural services. I believe, we believe, we have stood as a board on both boards for a long time. You know, we've got enough people, we've got enough vehicles, we have enough resources to do a great regional plan here. It's the decision-making and the boundaries to get in the way. And so we're working very hard with the states to think outside that box. And I offer to you that that may be not a scare tactic, but incentivizing. It isn't going to be one or the other. It's going to be an opportunity to merge resources and provide more and not just one.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Jim. Let me just ask one more time, any other final questions or comments from board members on this discussion this evening, knowing that we will have the formal public hearing and discussion at our. All right, seeing none. Thank you both. Thank you, Jim. All right, that brings us to this evening's proposed consent agenda, which includes 10 items for the board's consideration. Those are the minutes of the May 25 board meeting, minutes of the May 25 closed session, the treasurer's report for April 25, the treasurer's report for May 25, the renewal of an appointment to the local advisory committee, the extension of student housing training services agreement, this is addendum 20 plus. The subrecipient agreements with program for all-inclusive care for the elderly, or PACE, and Ian County Medical Care facility, the contract for snow and ice removal services, which we're going today, the Americans with Disabilities Act paratransit eligibility assessment services, and the comprehensive operational analysis. Does any member of the board wish to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda to our discussion agenda? Shannon? Does anyone else wish to have any other item removed from our consent agenda to this? If not, is there a motion to approve the 9 remaining items? Moved by Mark, seconded by Derek. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. Those 9 items are approved, which brings us to our discussion agenda, which now includes 1 item, former consent agenda item, letter J, comprehensive operational analysis. Shannon, you asked to have this removed. Did you want to make an open comment or question before we have staff information?
Yeah, I really just wanted to sort out, I think, using it, they never really isn't possible, but I just wanted to,
The first comment that I will make, with not resonate with the board, but will resonate with my feel away, but we trying to way stuff. It's a very good start off. I wanted Dustin to come forward and give an overview of not only how we have talked about this in the past in the board spoke with, but really how this fits right now. Actually, if you don't mind, Dustin.
Thank you, sir. So thank you for the question about COA. So I know in the past couple of board retreats, I've been looking at the COA as like something we want to do, something that we want to see on the future perimeter, and kind of finding a way of when is the perfect time to do it. So now that we're through the pandemic, we're kind of seeing how the schedules of workers have changed. We're having more conversations about regionalism. We have had a ride out on the road, so we had a microtrans service, so we can see how that's working with our fixed route service. And we have this fiscal question coming up, and budgetary wise, we think how can we more streamline the services that we have. This is the absolute perfect time to be doing a COA, because that way we can really do a deep dive at all of our services and say, you know, what is great about our services and what can we do even better about our services. And some of the stuff that we get out of the COA may even just be streamlining some of the processes, which ultimately lead to cost savings while still giving that same great service for our customers. And with COAs, this is something that a lot of big agencies do on a regular basis. And it's been about, I think, a decade since CAT has done one. So obviously, we know stuff changes. So it's good to kind of take a deep dive, take a reset and kind of look at our services and see what we can improve upon. It's kind of similar to how, all of our communities do master planning updates, I think every 5 years or so. So it's kind of approaching it from the same mindset. And then with the COA, we're going to be utilizing, grant funds, from our 5307 funding. And all the grant funds that we're utilizing, we're actually required by the FTA to set aside funding for planning related purposes as part of that funding. So this is exactly the kind of thing that we want.
Other questions?
I don't hear anything about, what I call it, the boundary between. Because the world has changed, not just us, but the world out there is changing, lots of change dramatically in the last 10 years. We ought to be thinking, I think, about the boundary between other private options and public transit. And that we should realize that there may be worlds where we're not really adding any value. We ought to be thinking about ways we can interface and work with them. If we don't do it in a COA, I don't know when we'll have to do it, so.
Exactly, and that's the benefit of bringing in another set of eyes into our conversation is that they have some of that experience where, maybe it's a private company can come in to help us out. Maybe it's fine tuning a fixed route, replacing it with microtransit, or expanding a fixed route system based on how it all fits together.
This is probably the only time I'll ever have a chance to influence this. I'm saying something a little further, because they don't have to be microtrans route services that we pay for. They can be services that we acknowledge that are out there in the world that everybody uses, and we should stop fighting with them, right? We should lose some competitions. This is one of those fields where if somebody takes away our customers, that's a good thing. That's not bad. We shouldn't resist it. And there may be worlds where we should just acknowledge that basically we're not providing anything important to value. Certainly, we're not providing anything equal to $35 or $40 per rider. For paratransit, which is the kind of money we're spending.
That's good, thank you.
Brad?
Very quickly, noted in fact, this gentleman, this staff went through a very painful process of the last year of spending $53 million, which is directed both for capital and operating to give to nonprofits and other providers that they do as transportation today. You may recall we were not, we did the shopping bus primarily to keep it in-house. We did not have other partners. Anticipating the FDA's request for us to do this RFP out, we actually, we're actually partnering with new private companies, nonprofits who actually do service and report it, which we will then, under FDA, will be able to count. It's now that you're saying it's the first step, and it's certainly a baby step more than one. But point is that often the fact that will be in the COA will be discussed as the step will process, and we incentivize through state assistance to be the partnership, but contribution.
Yeah, I. For the other one, I think that's really something that I'm drinking about. And I think there's. Right, that's sort of question is what, again, we go into the order of training now part of it.
Of course, yeah, with the COA process, there's a lot of public outreach, stakeholder outreach, board outreach. So everyone's gonna have a voice in this process, and it's really gonna be a lot more of a dynamic outcome when we ask everyone involved.
Yes, go ahead.
Was this put in a bid process?
Yes, sir.
How many bids were submitted?
I believe we received upwards of 10 bids. 3 of them were non-responsive, and then we analyzed the remaining 7.
Where did this particular unit's bid fall? Was it the lowest, the middle?
It actually was a sweet spot right in the middle.
And when was the last time we did this?
It's been well over a decade. It's definitely before my tenure.
Okay, thank you. One last comment, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to your point, $480,000 is a lot in coming as an item I actually our budget. Tap breaks, we prepare for the budget process. What I offer to you is that the way we strategize this contract, that's what it is. So we are going to continue moving forward with the goal of the sports net, and continuing looking down the road and having the option to keep adding on, but being able to stop and tap the brakes on this process if we need to. But it will not be time of loss.
That's what we look for, not. Actually, football, give up that item, and so, but making sure we don't understand. What they're looking at and how we're going to.
If I could speak freely, madam, and I've never stopped myself from doing it before. But in preparing this budget with Jim and Dustin and Andrew, there was a very thorough, painful conversation about why are we spending $480,000 during this budget process? And we came up with this because we believe that we're gonna find those efficiencies, and we will be able to report back. But the thing I'm most excited about when they sold this is that when we go to East Lansing and we go to some of the smaller, even the Michigan Avenue changes that are going on, right? We need to wrap those into and really be comprehensive in our planning and have it make sense in those conferences. We're gonna have it tied into those other counties, other carriers, whether they invest in it or not, but it's gotta get a blueprint going.
Is the 480,000 cap, can't go beyond that?
Right now, this thing. Yes,
Is there a clause in the proposal that allows them to go something in?
no, in fact, I don't believe that this is a board approved vaccine.
Any other questions? I only brief comment before I ask for a motion on this is I think for the board in particular, it's very easy to see a lot of these things as silos, standalone issues, the COA, the conversations with Lutran, the conversation with Delta Township, the conversation with Clinton County, the relocation of the MPO to be co-located with the budget. But I think in a lot of really important ways, those are all part of the same conversation about what the future of this region looks like in this regard. And there's gonna be a lot of people who have to focus just on there a little bit. I think we as a board and the staff of CATA obviously have to be the ones who help put those puzzle pieces together to see how they inform one another and help advance one another and not just get caught on any one of them and how we check the box for this particular agenda item, but how does it influence the rest of the thing? So it is I appreciate you calling it off, Shanna. It is a big budget item. I think in the long run, it'll be money extremely well spent. And as we go through the rest of these conversations, we'll see how to follow with this process. Helps inform those conversations and help us make better decisions about them. On that note, is there a motion to approve the proposed contract for a comprehensive analysis? Moved by Shanna, seconded by Phil. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. It brings us to, thank you, Dustin. Brings us to full business. There is no notice full business to come before tonight. Likewise with new business, which brings us to our second and final public comment opportunity. This is the time we set aside during each of our agendas to hear from the public on any item related to CATA or its operations. Same request, please consider filling out a blue card with your name and address to assist our secretary. And a reminder that your comments will be limited to 3 minutes and we have a timer to assist you. I will call folks in the order in which I've had blue cards submitted and then ask if anyone else wishes to comment. I have had one card submitted in advance from, I believe it's Daniel Guerrero.
Yes, sir.
Please come forward. You got a mic right here.
Hello, everyone. I'm not exactly sure if this is gonna actually help or not. I'm actually here to speak about Spectrum. I myself personally, with my mother, have been having issues with Spectrum service. I myself, as a public servant, expected me to go over and beyond, make sure that what I do is acceptable. And I've been noting to Spectrum every time I call them about how their service is. The way I can get reported is half is doing a good job and the other half is not. What I mean by not, I see apathy they don't care. I have discussions with the drivers, who was picking up my mother and dropping them off, just to make sure, because they do have, a script of what each person, their needs are. And, hers has got a list. And the main one for us is she's 100% flawless. We've stated to the drivers and the heads of Spectrum that she really cannot be left alone. Anything you can do to either do a backup on a vehicle for the beeper or honk the horn, we will be out. We will make sure that we help in assisting her in and out. I myself have had seen occasions where she was not strapped in. And the list for my mother is quite concerning because she's taking medication that could hurt her very badly if she gets in an accident. More of the like blood thinner medicine. I was told if she ever gets hit in the head in any way, shape, or form, she will have to go to ER. There's just no discussion. Back in October, the end of October 31st, paratransit let her out without us being there to help assist her. She got all the way down to her driveway, or my driveway, and the driver was already gone. By the time I could get out to help her, she was already on the ground. And because of that, she wound up now, had to have emergency surgery the next day to have a nail and a screw put in her femur close to her canter. That was rough for us and very hard on the family to help her now. She's 96 years old, her condition, she has kidney failure, she's all risk. We tried to express that very much to Spectrum about making sure that she gets from point A to point B safely. When I asked about paratransit, I was being told that she's curb to curb. Well, when I talked to Kat says she's paratransit. In my eyes, when I see.
Okay,
When I hear the word para, for me, I know what that means. And I don't see that. And I've had discussions with Spectrum. We have made many complaints about how they did bring my mother. I've had drivers tell me that they don't look at the script. I've had drivers tell me that she looks fine to me. And I keep telling them she has 80% of her hearing loss. So you just can't assume that she's gonna be okay. I'm very beside myself on this side. I'm very upset about all of this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to tell everybody about this, but I really don't know who else to talk to. Like I said, I made my complaints, not getting them.
We appreciate you taking the time to be here this evening and offering comment. I've seen Brad up here taking copious notes, and we'll have staff follow up to discuss the particulars of the mother's situation after this evening. So thank you for bringing the issue to our attention, and we'll make sure that all of that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to offer public comment at this second and final opportunity this evening? All right, seeing none, I'm going to double check here, but our agenda indicates this evening that we have a closed session regarding union labor agreement negotiations. As a reminder to the board, it's going to be our standard practice throughout the pendency of the negotiation to have this as a standing item on all of our agendas, but my understanding is that those conversations are proceeding apace, but there is no particular report to offer the board this evening, and this closed session is not necessary. Is that correct, right? I would concur. All right. Then unless there is any further business to come before the board tonight, Mark, go ahead.
I stop myself saying that I couldn't guess that it would be Andy Shore who was the special guest. I was expecting Sandy.
Any other business to come before the board? We're not going to count it as a sermon at that point. So, all right, there being no further business to come before the Capital Area Transportation Authority Board of Directors, we are adjourned at 4:51 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good evening.